Welcome back to the Roundtable. I'm Oshrik Vox.
I'm Richard Nemo.
And my name is Hot Stuff Tom.
Alright, so we figured everyone's going to be talking about the Adventure Time finale, right?
Yeah, pretty much everybody.
We didn't want to do just a typical review, so we thought, well, Adventure Time, it ran alongside regular show for the longest time. They were a pair, two peas in a pod. So we thought, why not compare the finales and, kind of, in a way, review both of them, but in their different aspects, which one did what better, and see what was the better finale.
I'm just imagining the two shows, it's like two old ladies, and then Adventure Time's like, I outlived that old hag.
They both make me sad because they're so nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that they both are over now means that I'm definitely old.
Sure. Whatever you say, Billy.
I mean, from my perspective, I didn't even consider myself a kid when Adventure Time started, so it's like...
Ooh, yeah.
Now I'm especially old.
Alright, round one plot. So the plot of Come Along With Me starts off in the future, which I thought was a nice detail.
Oh yeah, I was not expecting that intro.
With Shermie and I believe Beth is her name?
Yeah, I think it was Shermie and Beth.
Yeah, which seems to be the reincarnation of Finn and a descendant of Jake's. Mm-hmm. And they go to the King of Boo, which is BMO!
I think that's the biggest twist in Adventure Time is that BMO is the one that
He's a robot.
I guess, yeah.
And then BMO tells him about the Great Gum War, or the end. So then we have the Gum War, it doesn't happen.
No, they were like on the brink, and then Finn threw that dream solution.
I just really appreciate the fact that they just, up until the very end were like, yeah, Princess Bubblegum is a imperialist tyrant, and she always will be, until now when Finn changes her.
Gold comes down, Betty sacrifices herself, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's a very streamlined version of it, but then compare that to the plot of a regular epic final battle, we have
Which the name's worse.
Really?
Throwing that out there, just because it has the word epic in it.
Well, I think this is regular show. Well, the Adventure Time has come along with me. That's the name of the ending.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's the first lyric. That's really good. But regular shows
regular shows intentionally corny.
Yeah, it's like a regular epic final. They have regular in the title.
I know. Okay.
But it's Pops versus Anti-Pops.
Yeah, it was the big battle.
Yeah.
Of the whole series that we didn't hear about till now.
The timeline resets towards the end with Mordecai and Rigby. They got the first episode, then they go back to the end. Pop sacrifices himself, and then we see everyone grow up. So just at their core, the plots, they're both pretty simple plots.
Yeah, I think that works for a finale.
Yeah.
Because they're simple with high stakes.
Mm.
And also, it's pretty easy to jump in and kind of understand what's going on enough to follow it.
I feel
Except not Adventure Time.
I feel like I wasn't really lost during Adventure Time.
I was pretty
super
lost.
Caught up.
Because I did a bunch of research on Fern and the sword stuff and what was happening with Gumball. But if you were watching the episodes before, you were really confused.
I just kind of accepted that I didn't understand a lot of stuff.
That's the thing. And then it was Betty with normal person, and I'm like, wasn't that Magic Man? And it turns out he got his powers. And I didn't see that episode. Mm-hmm. So I was just confused. I didn't know a lot of characters, I think was the thing.
Both Adventure Time and regular shows finally had a lot of recurring characters from the past. But I feel as if a regular show, they were kind of cameos that you didn't need to know who they were. Adventure Time, it was you're going to be kind of lost if you don't know who they are.
Adventure Time became super lore heavy. Mm-hmm. In the last couple seasons.
I feel like the lore was there all along, but it got into it.
But the problem was the fact that Cartoon Network just kind of pushed it off to the side.
And the constant hiatuses.
Yeah, and people who know Adventure Time, which everyone knows Adventure Time at this point, they didn't know all the new stuff that was happening. Mm-hmm. So it kind of made it difficult for the finale to follow in that sense.
But I feel like the plot itself was kind of all over the place. Even when you break it down, but then you actually watch it, it's first starts in the future, then it's the Gum War, and then everyone confronts each other in the Mindscape, which kind of felt like that was just kind of padding.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Even for Adventure Time, it was as weird as it had gotten. Mm-hmm. And the thing with Adventure Time that always bothered me is people's reactions never felt like how they should be. When he was fighting with Fern, it was life or death. Jake was just I'm gonna go, bye, and Finn's okay, bye, and I'm in the finale, can you take something seriously for a second just to tell? But they did, just in that one part.
Yeah, and then they decide not to go to war, which happy ending.
Yeah.
But then Gold comes out of nowhere, coincidentally.
Well, wait a second. You skipped over Gumball. Literally got.
Oh yeah, Gumball. He gets reduced back to Punch Man.
Which stupid because it feels unfulfilling.
Yeah.
That we watched this whole resolution.
And Bubblegum's kind of just or Bubblegum's aunt's how...
And she was the one that tripped him.
He was never much of a... Yeah.
Which, they never explained that. Maybe I'm just dumb. Why did she trip him? Was she evil the whole time?
Because she knows what...
They kind of played off as a joke.
Yeah, it did.
It was essentially that she doesn't think he would have been fit for a ruler, because they're going to be two Candy Kingdoms. She was I'll just be in charge.
Yo, that's Hamlet.
Yeah.
Like, she was just like, no, I'm taking the throne.
Yeah.
No one really seemed to care. Like, they play it off as a joke. That's the thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the Mindscape didn't really go anywhere.
No, it didn't.
Like, the entire sequence just kind of ends with, like, Fern being freed from, like, the grass monster that's in them.
Which I guess Fern's arc got completed.
No, yeah, and then when they go back to reality, Fern's like, I think I'm dying.
Which is...
And Jake is like, my bad, I thought it was just in a dreamscape.
He was like, I don't feel so good, Finn.
Yeah, everyone...
I don't want to go,
show.
Finn. Mr. Finn.
Out of nowhere, this sort of glob thing happened because they're like, well, we need something really big to happen, but we haven't built up that.
Well, here's the thing about Gold. He only appeared one other time before this, and then he was mentioned in like a few other episodes, but like this is like his first big role in an episode, and it felt kind of unfulfilling because he wasn't properly set up.
No. It was just a thing, and it was like, if you knew Adventure Time deep lore, you knew that there was a thing called Gold.
Yeah.
But they just threw him in there.
Everything happened too soon. Like, despite being an hour, I feel like the resolution of everything just kind of happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when they're in the Mindscape, all right, that's it. Or how they agree not to go to war, all right, that's it. Gold being defeated, oh, let's sing. And then singing doesn't really have a payoff. It just allows Finn and Simon to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And Betty, she merges with Gold and then goes into the sky. And I guess that's the end. Compared to a regular show where it felt like everything kept escalating in its finale.
That's true.
When you compare, like, the huge fight with Anti-Pops, the ducks and everything, and the giant mecha, and they throw everything at him, and he still comes out on top.
Whereas when Adventure Time did that, they were just in the background.
They did a good job with regular show explaining, like, what the stakes were.
Mm-hmm.
Because with Adventure Time, it's like you knew that there were stakes, but you didn't exactly understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Or, like, what the objective was.
Yeah, with regular shows, like, we gotta break this cycle of fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Where with Adventure Time, it's like, if Gold is free, then he'll destroy Ooh, but it's ambiguous if he'll actually destroy the universe or not.
Yeah, and also it's like, where was he before?
Yeah, and also they didn't really explain how he was going to destroy, like how his presence would, because obviously he was turning people, or he was turning beings into, like, these hive mind monsters.
Yeah.
And you can assume that was spread across the world, but, like, he himself was just kind of, like, there. And I get he's supposed to represent chaos and everything, and we'll get to Gold comparing it to Anti-Pops later on, but I feel as if his presence was just that, like, he was just there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was never like, oh my god, like, it's finally happening.
Yeah, that's true.
Compared to the Lich, like, when the Lich was on screen,
Dude,
you
the
felt
Lich-
threatened.
The Lich was so cool.
But here, like, in this finale, I didn't really feel anything when Gold was on screen, because you're just like, alright, how are they going to defeat him? It was never a question of if they're going to defeat him.
He didn't
Yeah.
feel like a character, it just felt like a concept.
And I think that's kind of the intention of it, but for a finale, you need more.
Especially for a show like as big as Adventure Time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where regular show definitely succeeded,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Also, I feel like Pop's sacrifice had a lot more weight than Betty's.
Oh my god, yeah. Like, Pop's a main character as opposed to Betty, which I wasn't even completely familiar with.
I'm looking at just from a plot standpoint.
Okay. Just the act of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I felt Pop's had genuine build-up.
Yeah.
Where Betty's just like, the crown works now!
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the thing with a lot of this finale. It's like when Ice King reverts back to Simon permanently, it just happens. There's no payoff to it. Like, it's not... The execution's very lacking.
And it also kind of had a Donnie Darko effect, where it's like you don't know what exactly is, like, tied to reality and what's just happening. Like, with the dreamscape and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know... Like, the fact that they keep going in and out of, like, different spaces throughout the entire story, it makes it feel like, okay, this is happening, but it won't actually have any real-world effect, or it might have real-world effect, and it was kind of... That line was a bit too blurred.
So overall, when you look at the two plots and everything that goes into them, I feel like regular show's plot for its finale definitely outweighed Adventure Time's.
Yeah.
Just because, while Adventure Time still, like, we're not saying this finale is bad, but it definitely is lackluster. While with regular show, I felt as if this felt like a fitting end for it. While with Adventure Time, I felt like they could have gone bigger. So regular show definitely wins the plot aspect. Round 2 is structure. Now that we have the plot, how is that plot structured? And we know with regular show, when you look at a regular final battle, it was structured where part 1 is the fight against Anti-Pops with everybody. Part 2 is Pops versus Anti-Pops, and part 3 is, you know, the resolution, Mordecai and Rigby solving everything.
It's a 3-act story.
Yeah.
Very good. Adventure Time.
I personally feel like the Shermie and Beth sequence took way too long to get into the actual episode.
Yeah.
And that tied into the pacing issues. Just because, you know, they had to establish these characters, like, to the best of their ability, get us familiar with them, or at least enough to like we would want to watch more.
Yeah.
But I feel like they could have showed off like a good like 2 or 3 minutes because it's 5 minutes of the first segment, and I feel like they could have gone into that a lot quicker.
I think if like from a story structure, it wasn't the best because they had like a conflict and resolution, then like another conflict and resolution.
Mm-hmm.
But the second one had no build up, and the first one had a lot of build up, so it's just kind of unbalanced, and it just made the gold thing feel like thrown in at the end.
Yeah, like the first segment, once we actually get into the story, all it really is everyone being at the battlefield and then Finn knocking all of them unconscious, which isn't a strong start. Then Act 2 is everyone making amends in said mindscape, but then Gold shows up at the very end. Like you said, it goes right into the next conflict.
Yeah.
Where I felt as if it would have had more weight if it was one consistent thing throughout.
Or if, and maybe they did this, but if you go back throughout the season or two and just maybe Gold was hidden in the background, like this was the real story that they were foreshadowing secretly, but then the Gumball War was like the obvious fake out thing.
And that might have been the case.
Yeah, because that's what
we haven't been keeping up.
You see, from what I've seen, it felt like maybe that's what they were trying to go for.
It didn't work.
But it didn't work. Because even fans like who have watched the show, they're like, yeah, it kind of just came out of nowhere.
I also feel like the Adventure Time finale was very reliant on keeping up with the show, which I guess for a finale isn't bad. But like you can watch a regular show finale without keeping up with everything that's going on, and they still like. They give you the idea of what you need to know to follow everything that's happening.
So yeah, I guess what we're trying to say is regular show also had a better structure, like just better structure to its finale.
as a story, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Adventure Time one, I'll give it points for being more interesting.
I mean, that's
For
an
having-
isolated story.
Yeah, and like having a point that like caught me off guard, whereas the regular show story didn't. It was pretty cookie cutter. So generic versus so far out of the box.
Yeah, because I think with Adventure Time, you're going to finally expecting the Gun War, and you don't get that. Instead, you get a borderline apocalypse.
Yeah, which was cool in concept, but I feel like in
Execution,
yeah.
it was kind of mundane.
It was just kind of unfulfilling in terms of you never really got to see what you wanted to see. Like even when there was an apocalypse, it's not really what you were waiting for, so it doesn't feel as cool as like.
Yeah. Now, round 3 is tone. The tone of both shows have always kind of been comedic. The tone of Adventure Time's finale was definitely finality.
Yeah, that's true.
Just from the very get-go.
It was the moral of the story.
Yeah. Like, even with the Gun War, it's like, this is it. Like, this is the end, or this could be the end of either kingdom.
Yeah.
Because if Bubblegum loses, that's the end of her Candy Kingdom. If Gumball loses, that's the end of his Candy Kingdom. And then when we transition to Gold, quite literally, like, the end of the world. Like, they keep saying it's going to be the end of Ooh. Just the way the characters are, their dialogue, the way they carry themselves, it feels as if, there's nothing after this. Compared to a regular show's tone, which is kind of...
They were kind of trying to avoid the end.
Yeah. Regular show's tone's very much the exact opposite. Like, things will keep going. Because they're trying to prevent the universe from resetting so they can keep going, because they don't want to just be in a loop.
And they also didn't want to lose Pop. Which, like, they basically set up, like, the idea was Pop and, anti-Pops. Their whole thing was, like, they were in a cycle of they destroy each other in mutual assured destruction, and then everything resets. And what they were trying to break was they were trying to break that cycle so that things could continue. With Adventure Time, it was very much just facing the fact that everything was going to end. So it's more of like denial versus acceptance. And in the end, regular show, it wasn't quite the universe resetting, but they did lose the thing they were trying to protect, which was Pops.
Yeah. Personally, I think Adventure Time's tone has the advantage over regular shows, just because our regular show was crazy and all over the place. Adventure Time, it had a much more emotional tone to it, I think.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
It tugged at my heartstrings more. Because if regular show was like, let's go out with a bang, this is, whoa, over the top, but then Adventure Time had like a sad BMO song, and it was gray for most of it. Yeah. Even the color tone wasn't even happy.
Yeah.
And like, dude, when Finn was like punching and he's like, I knew I'd go out saving somebody, like...
I always thought I'd go out saving somebody.
Dude, like, Jeremy should have decided in that moment to like, kill me. Like...
So yeah, Adventure Time wins round 3. Round 4 is villain. So we have Gold and then we have Anti-Pops. And the thing with both of them is that they're both there's not much to work with. Anti-Pops' thing is literally that he's just evil and he wants Pops to die. He wants to defeat Pops. And Gold, he's just chaos incarnate.
He's like a 4 horsemen type.
Yeah. Yet, I think Gold didn't it's not that he didn't work as a villain. He was underwhelming as a villain.
He wasn't
especially
very well executed.
I feel like he wasn't worthy of the final villain spot.
I think he could have been good enough for the final villain if they had done things a bit differently.
Yeah, I agree.
Like how?
Like maybe say, instead of having Gumball and Princess Bubblegum make up and then have Gumball just like fade out of existence or like get dumbed down or whatever, like have them make up and then Gulb comes in and it's like because there's like they achieved peace, now Chaos is like going into its own form into this villain which is trying to destroy the world.
Yeah.
That's so much better
Yeah,
than
I feel like they should have tied Gulb into the actual story instead of just him coming out of nowhere.
Because it would have given it a purpose or cause.
And Anti-Pops was put up throughout regular show in space, like the entire season. So going to find this is a character you already know. His voice actor is really good. Same voice actor as Freddy Krueger, like same actor.
That's pretty cool.
He's pretty funny. Like he has some really good dialogue in his finale. His powers, like we actually get to see his powers. With Gulb, all he really did was float in the air and turn people into, again, hive mind monsters. And when you compare that to Gulb again, he doesn't really speak. He does something with his tongue sometimes. He like opens and closes his mouth. He doesn't do much. I feel like the Lich would have been a better final villain just because the Lich was like Finn's ongoing nemesis for so long. And yeah, they wrapped up the plot, but
In like an episode, it wasn't even an event.
yeah, it's like with the Lich, it's fiction. You can always find an excuse to bring back the Lich. If you can bring Betty into present day, you can bring the Lich back somehow. And the Lich still does exist as Billy. And I don't see why they would have had. Okay, so this is the Lich reincarnated, and we have a scene of where Billy turns into the Lich temporarily. Why didn't they could have found a way to bring back the story full circle. It felt like a wasted opportunity. Like, why would you even show the fact that the Lich is still in there if you're not going to do anything with it?
And the Lich is a very recognizable villain in Adventure Time.
And they could have even done something like maybe Gulb comes and then like unleashes the Lich inside of Billy.
Right.
So that way Gulb is still like technically the final villain, but he's channeling himself through the Lich, through Billy.
I feel like Gulb is a complex concept to just throw in at the end too, as opposed to Anti-Pops, which is self-explanatory in the name.
Yeah.
And then you're like, Gulb is chaos. Like he exists. He's immortal. He's everything that's bad. I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, with Anti-Pops, it's because Pops is a fan favorite character. So for a villain, they literally took the fan favorite character and made the opposite.
Right.
And in a way, that's effective enough because of how much of a foil that is.
Yeah.
And it truly writes itself. But with Gulb, it's like we don't really know anything. Like, I think the Lich said he's a scholar of Gulb, but like even then, like that's bare minimum. And I think for a final, especially for Adventure Time, a show that has this rich lore, they should have built up Gulb a lot more than they actually end up doing. With Anti-Pops, yeah, he was introduced suddenly in the last season, but because of who he is, it just works better. So I'm gonna have to get regular show the point. Next up, Sacrifice. Comparing the sacrifice between Pops to Betty. Right away, Pops was already a main character. Betty had she was the Ice King's lover, and like you could feel for the Ice King, Simon, but I feel like we weren't really acquainted with Betty to make her sacrifice mean much. It's like Betty's sacrifice is tied directly to the Ice King, and yeah, the Ice King is the main character. Pops' sacrifice felt like something for everybody, while Betty was doing it specifically for Simon, because her wish was to keep Simon safe, not just like the world or anything. I feel like Pops had better build up too, not just because we were with him for the entirety of the series, but Betty kind of just showed up, like in the finale. Like you see them in the beginning, like, oh, there's Betty. Is she on Gumball's side? But then like that's just kind of it. And like they never really established that Ice King and Betty's story couldn't end in anything besides this. Where like with Pops, it's like either he keeps fighting for his eternity or they remove both of them from the equation. There was no peacemaking. But with Betty, it felt like, especially because after they leave Gulb, the crown is still in its reset form. So she still could have like wished herself, or she could have made the wish after they were out of there.
Yeah.
So it felt almost kind of like a forced sacrifice, where for Pops it was like this is literally the only way, because Anti-Pops wouldn't have given in and made amends with him.
Like since she kind of just showed up, it was like it didn't feel like she was anything to lose, because it was like we just gained this. So it's like she hasn't been established as part of the status quo enough to feel like we're losing something by sacrificing her.
Yeah,
It's almost too convenient that she came in.
Yeah.
So that this could happen. But she also summoned him, so.
Yeah.
Which also makes it convenient that she's the reason they came, so okay, she's gone. She's the reason she made it go away. You don't feel as bad because it's like, well, yeah, but that's what you get for summoning Gulb. as opposed to Pops, who literally just wanted to like have a hug.
Yeah.
And then he had to die, which is a huge loss.
So yeah, I mean, sacrifice. Regular show's kind of kicking ass. Callbacks. So comparing the callbacks and Come Along With Me to a regular epic final battle, there was a lot of callbacks in both.
Yeah. But I feel like regular show's callbacks were more like, remember this iconic character, whereas Adventure Time was like, I hope you memorize the lore because we're gonna be referencing it all episode. Like, and I feel like.
But I feel like Adventure Time is stronger for that.
You think so?
It kind of is.
I feel like lore is better than just having old characters. But then the old characters that came back weren't really utilized. They would like make a point to put them in there. But that just felt like, okay.
You know, like Flame Princess, her 2 lines,
Yeah.
2 3 lines.
Flame Princess was such a big part of the worst part of Adventure Time. And she only had like 2 lines.
Yeah, like singing along, and then like earlier, to Fern, she was
Oh.
like, you got that right, Shrubs. Like,
I could have said that line. Kevin was like, maybe it's a joke. And I'm like, okay. Maybe it's supposed to be bad.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, but.
Maybe it is. Or maybe it's just bad.
Yeah, I think it's just bad.
Maybe it's good, but we don't know it's bad.
But I mean, we had callbacks to Stakes, and then in the ending montage, we had callbacks to Islands with the humans coming back. So I feel as if the callbacks were stronger than Adventure Times, because again, regular show was kind of just like, we're in the episode. But going back to the very first episode of regular show was also a really good callback.
That's true, and they didn't even
And,
do
like,
anything like that in Adventure Time. I wanted them to go back to the pilot episode that I've watched a million times on YouTube.
Oh, the like Nickelodeon,
The Nickelodeon pilot.
How would have they like done that? I guess while they were unconscious.
It would have been perfect. It would have been perfect.
Didn't regular show also do one of J.G. Quintel's Cal Arts student films?
Yeah.
So another point to regular show there for actually doing that.
Like a callback to like.
Oh, that's such a good callback. I don't know.
Personally, I would go Adventure Time because it actually tied into the plot. Like really well. I'm not saying like regular shows didn't because they all fight against anti-pops, but like.
Yeah.
You could have had that anywhere.
I feel like in terms of regular show fans though, their callbacks were like more like, hey. Regular shows were more like,
Yeah, regular shows was more like, oh, this was a part of the actual like
Legacy.
No, like actually part of like the story of what's happening, but you gotta know what it's referencing to understand it. So for that, I feel like maybe regular show or maybe Adventure Time did it better.
I do think Adventure Time did their callbacks better.
Okay.
All right, Adventure Time wins. So the next one's wrapping up loose ends. Now, I actually feel like Adventure Time mixed up this really well. They kind of made a point to wrap up every loose end. Like they had Fern, they had Gumball. Honestly, Jake didn't really get that much resolution.
No. Like he turned into his alien form for a second, then he just got pummeled.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Finn and Jake.
Finn lost his arm, and he decided just to like go without an arm for the rest of the series, which I think that's a good way to leave that plot thread. It's like he keeps losing his arm, so he's just not gonna get another arm. And it's also, it's for like disabled people, that representation, which I mean, some people without like their limbs use prosthetics, so I don't know. But like that's what they actually said. It was supposed to stand for. That was representation of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. These PC Adventure Time writers. No, just kidding. Don't keep that in. I think that
the Stakes callback of marshalling using her vampire, like that spirit thingy spirit thingy, but you guys know what I mean.
Well, they did it.
I'm not good with like specific names in Adventure Time.
They did it good for everything but Finn and Jake, and that's what makes me so sad. Like in that ending scene where you saw all their lives complete, Finn and Jake had like 2 appearances. Like that was it.
I mean, I think that was more so wrapped up with the fact that they had the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess Finn is always gonna be reincarnated.
But what loose ends in regular shows finally really tie up? Like besides Mordecai ending up with a Batgirl that appeared like in the montage that came out of nowhere.
That's true.
I feel like Adventure Time definitely tied up the loose ends way better than regular show, but that's because regular show didn't really tie up any loose ends.
It didn't have to. Like,
I mean, regular show is just kind of about like life in general, just like the regular, like not even like a big philosophical meaning of life. It's more just like how life happens.
Yeah.
And they were just kind of like, well, this is how it happened, the way it does for most people.
Regular show really neglected Margaret though, because like we had the entire scene of like the park being back. She like runs to the park, and you think, oh, she's gonna reunite with Mordecai, and then she just hugs Eileen, and they never mentioned like anything of her again. It's like, oh, okay. So I think Adventure Time has them beat there. And finally, resolution. So between both shows, which ones do you think had the better resolution?
This is the hardest one because I think the endings were the best part of both episodes.
They both had a song. One was an original song, the other one was just David Bowie.
But it was a good David Bowie song.
All David Bowie songs are good. So.
It fit.
Now I will say, and this kind of ties into resolution, but also not really.
Okay.
When you look at both episodes as a whole, when you look at like the main characters like Finn and Jake to Mordecai and Rigby, regular show gave so much more screen time to like, not even screen time, 'cause I think Finn and Jake had a lot of screen time and Come Along With Me, but their roles in the finale were a lot more important than just Finn and Jake, because when you look at it, ultimately Finn and Jake, like once Golb showed up, they were just as effective as anyone else on the battlefield, which they weren't effective. And also, that battlefield was like barren.
Yeah, that's true. But didn't everyone run away?
Yeah, which is kind of dumb because they had that villain league from the last episode.
Yeah.
And then like you see some of the villains there like running away, and I'm like, oh, okay, like can't even fight back. Like, what was that? I don't know if that was like a storyboarding thing. Like, do we really got to storyboard all these characters?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like both of them were equally ineffective.
Ineffective?
Yeah.
For?
Like, just both Mordecai and Rigby and Finn and Jake, because...
Yeah, but I think when it came down to it, it was like...
Mordecai and Rigby definitely tried harder.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, when it came down to it, it felt like Mordecai and Rigby were everyone's last hope, whereas because everyone else were either out of commission or, like, didn't try. But with Adventure Time, it was like, I'm gonna do something, then they don't do anything.
Yeah. They don't really show it at least.
Yeah, I mean, like Finn got swallowed, and then Jake just like they say turned blue for like 2 seconds, like his alien form, and then he immediately like
shrinks down.
Yeah, he jobs like as soon as he's like, this is one for you, Finn, and then the guy picks him up and then throws him in the.
It sucked.
But then he had to go and save BMO.
No, BMO saved him with a song.
I mean, he had to go and comfort BMO and be like, I'm here to save you, but
then, when BMO was like,
BMO was
we're gonna
like,
get hurt sometimes too. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. That was real.
Then BMO had to be like, I'm your dad now.
I think Adventure Time artistically had a better finale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think regular show entertainmentally had a better finale.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way.
Like Adventure Time said to tell a message. Regular show was let's just go off with a bang.
Yeah.
And regular show was a lot more flashy.
Regular show was more just like, we got fans of this show. Let's do them
justice.
Yeah, let's make this for them.
I felt like regular show's finale felt more regular show than Adventure Time's finale felt more Adventure Time. What I mean by that is like, because Adventure Time's finale was so somber, which I'm sure was like intentional.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Adventure Time, it's like, smiles out, and like these wacky one-liners, and like you had some of that here.
I don't know about that.
Maybe the old Adventure Time.
There are a lot of really somber moments throughout Adventure Time.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like its finale should have been bigger. Like, and I don't know how bigger you can get than like a literal chaos god. Yeah. But it's how they executed it. The execution could have been on a grander scale.
I feel like with Adventure Time, you're gonna have a uphill battle or something like that, just because they're always so over the top to begin with. That trying to be over the top for your finale beyond what you're normally, like I think they did probably as good as they could with what they had already established.
I mean, with the Mindscape, I was like, it was weird and like, but like that was still like Adventure Time. I felt like actual like Adventure Time episode. But like the entire Golb thing again, it just felt like, eh.
It's just because of how they did it. If they had built up Golb more secretly, that would have been so cool.
Yeah, and like regular show is like, like I said, it kept me on the edge of my seat. Like when they formed the mecha of like all the baby ducks and Mordecai and Rigby, I was like, let's go.
But I feel like it's like.
And then Anti-Pop's was like, hey, got tickled. And I'm like, oh, he's such a badass. And then, like, we're like, they went to, like, the storyboards. You're, like, on top of storyboards. You're like, what's going on? It's like reality's falling apart. And, like, the show logo's falling. But then Adventure Time is like, what'll happen? Which I love Time Adventure.
I feel like if you've never seen any show, watching regular show's finale is like, okay.
But why would you watch the finale?
I'm just saying, like, objectively as a finale, like, Adventure Time's or regular show's finale is like, okay, but Adventure Time's finale will definitely make you feel something. Like, if I've never seen.
But Adventure Time's finale, or regular show's finale made me feel something.
Yeah, because David Bowie and stuff.
And because you've been with those characters that entire time.
Yeah, but I feel like both finales should have accomplished that.
But, like, Adventure Time on its own, still, like, I felt. Like, the song and everything, like.
It's kind of impressive how the storytelling of Adventure Time, even with all the flaws in this finale, still managed to, like, get those emotional beats out of you.
Yeah. So.
I feel like a regular show's finale, like, I felt like a chapter just closed my life.
Yeah.
For Adventure Time, it felt like an old friend leaving. But regular show is like, oh man, I'm growing up. With Adventure Time, like I said, it just felt like a goodbye of Adventure Time. But
yeah.
Like, seeing everyone in the park grow up and, like, yeah, they had David Bowie, but, like, that was regular show's thing. They always had old music in there.
So I don't know who wrapped it up better, honestly. I don't know if I can really decide. I think Adventure Time wrapped it up lore-wise better, just because it had more lore. So I think objectively we have to say that it was Adventure Time.
I feel like it's comparing apples to oranges, honestly.
I know.
Like, it's hard to say which did what better because they're two different circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Adventure Time kind of lost a lot of people along the way, so...
So did a regular show.
They both did.
I feel like not as much, though.
A lot of people, I know, like, dropped regular show.
Yeah, but I feel like there wasn't as long of a gap.
Yeah, because the hiatuses, yeah. Regular show never really had, like, a huge hiatus like Adventure Time did, because Adventure Time would disappear for months at a time.
Well, I would still say Adventure Time.
You think Adventure Time?
Yeah.
I say regular show.
Okay.
The only reason why I say regular show is because, like I said, at the end of the finale, like, I felt resolved. Adventure Time, I didn't really feel resolved.
Plus, the point is I would keep going on without you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then I guess I agree with you. It's a regular show.
In terms of resolution?
In terms of resolution, yeah. Because Adventure Time wasn't about resolution. It was about the adventure always will happen.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like the finale, you gotta resolve things.
I mean, it's cooler to know that, like, the universe just keeps on keeping on.
It's so weird with Adventure Time because despite tying up all these loose ends, just because everything kind of just happened, you don't feel... There's no catharsis.
Yeah.
With a regular show, it was like seeing everyone grow up and like have kids and get married. Like you feel catharsis because you're like, all right, everyone ended up somewhere.
It felt complete.
Yeah.
Whereas with Adventure Time, it kind of felt like, okay, so there's gonna be another season. Like,
yeah, I mean they're continuing through comics, so.
Yeah, even though they're technically not canon.
I don't know. I think with Adventure Time, it's like, yeah, there'll always be more adventures, but they still could have done it in a way where you're like, there's still more adventures, but this is like how this part of Finn and Jake's lives end. And I didn't really get that.
Yeah, you're right. That's a valid point. Like thinking about that last montage sequence, like how Finn didn't even grow old.
Like the humans came back to Ooh and everything, but we don't really see the repercussions of that.
Exactly, and that's what I want to see so bad.
Yeah, like, you know, and I get they don't want to spoil everything. Like something Alex Hirsch said about Gravity Falls, he was like, you know, with Harry Potter, I wasn't looking forward to seeing Harry's 9-to-5 job, so that's why I want to leave it open to interpretation. But with Gravity Falls, it's like you can guess they will have more adventures, like Dipper and Mabel, or just like the town of Gravity Falls. But you're like, this chapter of their lives, this summer they had a complete ending. With Adventure Time, it's like, okay,
yeah.
It's like we beat the big bad guy, and like, yeah, Ice King's normal. Like Ice King, it felt like the only character who had like a true resolution, like him and Fern. But Fern only felt resolved because he died.
Yeah.
Like he embraced.
You kind of have to have a resolution then.
Yeah.
So I agree in regular show.
Yeah.
I don't want to choose, but I'd probably say regular show.
I would say in terms of like being like a series finale, like there's nothing after this. I would say regular show. But from a message standpoint, I think Adventure Time.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sure that Adventure Time as a franchise is going to be continued in some way, even beyond the comics, just because it's been such a huge part of the marketing of Cartoon Network that they're gonna do something, I'm sure.
Or even with Shermie and Beth, like even though they were basically framing devices, it still shows that like this world has a lot more stories to tell. So I'm sure we'll see like some more stuff with Shermie and Beth. And you know, I think Adventure Time had a feel good ending, whereas regular show it was like you're getting old.
You're gonna grow old and die too.
They both ended with music montages.
Yeah, that's true. Adventure Time had a better music montage.
You think Adventure Time had a better music montage?
I think it had a better song.
They made their own song.
Yeah, that's.
But it was a song we've had for like 8 years. It was a great song.
They didn't just steal one from the greatest artist of all time.
Machine Gun Kelly didn't do this song. So in conclusion, and I said this earlier, I think Adventure Time had a better artistically speaking ending, and regular show had a better entertaining ending.
I feel like regular show felt more complete of an ending.
Yeah, it did. Adventure Time did a bad job of showing us the rest that we wanted to see, and whether or not they chose to do that or not is kind of up to decide. But regular show definitely was like a compact, this is the end, look at them old, they reference the beginning, you know, it's like that felt good to see.
Yeah, everything comes full circle.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I did like keep up with Adventure Time, just because like I'm curious as to like, because it's easy to say as someone who follows regular show to look at the finale and be like, oh, that's more emotionally fulfilling. But like, even as someone who wasn't really that invested in Adventure Time at this point,
Mm.
it was still really emotional.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, if you actually followed everything, would it be more emotional?
Mm.
So I don't know. Because that was something that the Adventure Time finale definitely did better,
Yeah.
I feel like.
You think evoking emotions?
Yeah,
yeah.
like, even if you're not, like, that invested to begin with.
And I think that if Adventure Time had a regular show type ending, it would have been bad. It wouldn't have fit the show.
It would have felt kind of cheap because
Yeah.
we already got it.
Well, yeah, just
Well, I think with Adventure Time, it evoked emotions throughout. Where regular show didn't focus invoking emotion until like the ending montage. But I felt like they still could have had like you still could have the beginning of like Shermie in the future and BMO and like when he sees Finn's army, he's like it belonged to my best friend. At that moment, I was already like, oh no. But they still could have had that, but still had like a more grand final battle. At the same time, it's like how are you gonna have a grand final battle against Gold? Like just because how he is. So it's tricky for sure. Like they definitely kind of put themselves into a corner.
yeah. But can we objectively say one had a better ending than the other?
Yeah.
I think from a writing standpoint or like a storytelling standpoint, maybe regular show.
Yeah.
But from like an overall standpoint, if you step back and look at the big picture, I don't know if I could decide.
If you were like, I want to watch a series finale, like you're in the mood for watching series finale, which one would you like put on?
The Adventure Time one.
You think
Yeah,
so?
honestly.
I would. Yeah.
See, I'd put on the regular show.
So maybe it's just a matter of.
I mean, it's always a man's opinion. That's what all
That's
YouTube
true.
channels are.
We're wrong all the time,
But we're also right.
but we're also right.
But no, I think it's a good thing that we all don't like agree.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But I mean, just now the fact that we both said Adventure Time, like maybe that shows that we're right. and wrong.
Alright. So on the count of three, we're gonna go from Shane to Tom
Yeah.
and say which finale you prefer and give a quick synopsis why. So 3, 2, 1.
Okay, well, I feel like regular show had a better ending storytelling wise in terms of like plot and pacing. I just feel like Adventure Time did a better job of making me nostalgic for the beginning of the series, and I feel like the fact that they ended it on there's adventures still going on, even though this one wrapped up, is a cooler message than what regular show offered. But that's just my dumb opinion.
I prefer a regular show's finale just because I feel like it was better structure. I feel like it had more of a conclusive ending, whereas Adventure Time, it had a stories continue ending, but not in a way where I felt resolved with that chapter of Finn and Jake's lives, and by extension, my life as a viewer. And I feel like they did more of a job, not just to entertain, but to go out on a high note.
I would go with the Adventure Time finale, even though I feel like regular show did a lot of things technically right. I feel like artistically and just emotionally, Adventure Time hit a lot of the beats it needed to hit in order to get a response out of audiences, and for that, I feel like it's a little bit more enjoyable upon rewatching.
But what do you guys think? Which finale do you prefer? Let us know in those comments down below, or tweet to us at Roundtable Vids, or at DistractorNemo.
$100.
Or Tom EPQM.
As always, if you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you can check out our Patreon. There you can get exclusive access to scripts and avatars. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, share it, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay in the loop with all things animation. I'm Retro Nemo.
I'm Ashik Vox.
My name's Tom.
And see you next time.
Bye-bye.